Greetings and welcome to the Wild Swans at Coole. From today on, we are going to have a series of lectures on literary theories, and this lecture will be based on Peter Barry's book Beginning Theory and Introduction to Literary and Cultural Theory, 4th edition. And the link of this book is given in the community post. You can buy the book from the given link, and you can also buy the book from download the book online from the another link. I will also provide the links in the description of each video. Today's video is based on structuralism. So let's begin. Structuralists believe that a particular text is not only a separate identity or isolated identity. They believe that a text is part of a whole structure. Means a text always is a content of a container, and that means a text always have a genre. For example, um, John Donne's Good Morrow is part of the genre dawn song, right? or or Frankenstein is part of a genre gothic novel. So structuralists always understand a text using, or keep in mind that a text is not only a text but a part of something. So let's begin. Structuralism begins in the 1950s in France, and it begins in the 1970s in Britain. But before structuralism, there, with the Cambridge Revolution in the 1920s, it believes that a text is only a text. It is isolated from all the wider structure and context, which is quite the opposite of structuralism. But with the movement of structuralism, we are going to see that a text is not only a text, but a text is part of a wider structure. The Cambridge Revolution in the 1920s enjoys close study of the text. It is relentlessly isolated from all wider structures and contexts. It excludes wider questions, abstract issues, and ideas. It is text based. Structuralism begins in the 1950s and first seen in the works of C.L. Strauss and Ronald Barthes. Its essence is the belief that things cannot be understood in isolation. In the context of large structures, they are part of something. So, structuralists believe that things or word, one have to define one word by using another words or by using another things. For example, if you have to define what is an apple, you have to tell the color of the apple, so you are using the word red. You have to tell the shape of the apple, or in what category the apple belongs to. For example, apple belongs to the fruit category, so you are now using fruit. So when you are using the term fruit, you will have all kind of image of fruits in your mind. So we will see that structuralist is going to establish their belief that to understand one thing, you cannot understand one thing in isolation. You have to take help of the other structure that the thing is part of, right? So things cannot be understood in isolation. In the context of larger structures, they are part of something. Structuralists believe meaning is not inside, meaning is always outside. Meanings are attributed to the things by the human mind. So when we are calling that this fruit is an apple, there is no particular reason or logic behind calling that particular red round shape fruit is apple, because there is no connection between the fruit apple and when we are calling that fruit that this is apple. So there is no connection behind the name apple and its meaning. Like why? Because we can also attribute an orange as an apple, but we are not doing so. Because why we are not doing so? Because from our childhood, from our birth to the present, we are given the knowledge that apple is that fruit which is red in color, which has a round shape, and which fruits the upper and lower section has a curviness. So that particular fruit is apple, and this also belongs to fruit genre. It is not a from flower genre, right? So meanings are attributed to the things by the human mind. We human beings have given meanings to the things. Structuralist approach takes one further away from the text and brings one close to large and comparatively abstract questions of genre, history and philosophy. As you understand that structuralists do not give definition of one thing only in isolation. In their words, it is impossible to define one thing without the help of another. There is a constant drive towards understanding the larger abstract structures which contain them. So the fruit apple is part of the larger structure, which is the apple section, or sorry, the fruit section. So there is a constant drive towards understanding the larger abstract structures which contain them. So when we are trying to understand an apple, we will have to understand that it belongs from a fruit genre. Similarly, when we have to understand a text, for example, take Rabindranath Tagore's Home and the World, you will have to remember that this home and the world is not just a text. It is part of a wider structure which is based on nationalism. So to understand the text home and the world, you have to at first know the language English, then how it works, then how the rules or the functions of the English, or how we pronounce English, or what, or when Rabindranath Tagore is writing and Home and the World, he has given many kind of examples, the houses, the people and the places. So you will also have an understanding of all these little details. So all these little details are also part of this wide is also part of this text home and the world. So home and the world, so to understand home and the world, you have to you you have to think or have to read all these little details, and together these little details you will have an overall understanding of uh, the text home and the world. So this is structuralist view, that according to them one cannot understand one thing in isolation. Ferdinand de Saussure, another key figure in the theory of structuralism. So what Saussure did? So Saussure is basically does an linguistic approach. He and structuralists found Saussure's linguistic approach interesting. In the 19th century, when scholars were interested in the historical aspects of language, Saussure was concentrated on the patterns and functions of the language. So when other scholars were interested in the historical aspects, Saussure was interested on how a language function, or what are the patterns of language, and what kind of language, the kind of language that we studies today in present. Emphasis on how meanings are maintained and the functions of grammatical structures. Saussure also gives importance on the function, or how the grammatical structure works and how meanings are maintained, like why why we call a dog, or why the fruit apple is called apple, like what is the purpose of giving that exact fruit the connotation apple. Firstly, Saussure emphasizes that meanings are purely arbitrary. Words are unmotivated signs, meaning that there is no inherent connection between a word and its meaning. As you know from the first example of apple, that there is no connection between the word apple and the fruit apple. And structuralists are interested in the implication that if language as a science system is based on arbitrariness, then language is not a reflection of the world and it stands quite separate from it. So through language we cannot say that it reflects the world. Basically they are trying to, or Saussure is trying to say, or the structuralist is telling us that language Saussure is telling us that language is not, we cannot say the language is reflection of the world. Language is just human beings giving a connotation to certain things for their own facility, for their own help, because it will give them, or it will give us the human beings, and uh, help us to understand certain things. Because if we call everything apple, then it will be difficult for us to understand that. When you say that you give me a pen, if human beings are human, or if we gives that pen is also apple, or we say that give me an apple, or someone is asking for the fruit apple, then it will be difficult for us. So giving different things different name is part of human mind. It is for their own sake. So the language is not a reflection of the world and it stands quite separate from it. Secondly, Saussure emphasizes that meanings of words are relational. No words can be defined in isolation from other words. So he is telling that to understand certain things or certain words, Saussure is telling that to understand certain words we have to use another word, and that is the view that structuralists use in their logic, that to understand certain text we have to take help of another text, or uh, another bigger picture that the text is part of. The definition of any given word depends upon its relation with the other adjoining words. That is to say, to define one word, we need other words, and if we paired opposite words, then this is mutually defining aspects of words is more apparent. So Saussure is telling, for example, the word female. If someone asks what is a female, we have to say that the female is a kind of person who normally who has a reproductive organ, who are more beautiful, or this is very difficult. But if we say that female is the opposite of male, or if someone asks that what is a male, then we can say that it is opposite of female. Then it will be very helpful for us to understand the particular thing female or the particular thing male. So so try in your own, if someone asks you that what is a female, what you will tell them that female is. And if you do one thing, if you search in Google that what is a female or what is a woman, you will see that while giving the idea of female or woman, it takes the help of the opposite male, or so it becomes easy. Thirdly, language constitutes our world. It does not just record or label or reflect it. For example, we have 4 seasons, but the year does not run like this in reality. So when we are telling that we have 4 seasons, summer, fall, winter, spring, then in reality the year does not work like this. It is us human being who have separated that when there is too much hot, that is summer, when there is very low temperature, that is winter. So the season or the year does not work like that, that is summer, now summer ends, now fall starts. It doesn't happen in reality. It is just for our own understanding we have separated. So thus the seasons are a way of seeing the year and not an objective fact of nature. So Saussure has used the terms langue and parole to signify language as a system or structure and any given utterance in that language, respectively. So what Saussure has done, Saussure has defined that let's divide language in 2 sections. One is langue and second is parole. And what is the langue? Langue is the rules or convention or grammatical function of the language. For example, to understand, and parole is the utterance or the remark or the word itself. For example, to understand a particular quote of William Shakespeare, you have to at first, so the particular text of William Shakespeare is parole, and to understand the parole or the particular text of quote of William Shakespeare, you have to know the English language, the rules or the function how English language works, and the exact meaning of each of the words, right? And you have to understand like what rain is. For example, if there is the word rain in William Shakespeare quote, then you have to understand what does rain means. So in this way you can have a better understanding of Shakespeare's quote. So that is, Saussure is saying that the individual remark or the parole only makes sense when one sees it in relation to a wider containing structure. So to understand a individual remark, you have to take a look in the wider structure, and this and structuralist has used this Saussure's understanding in their to give support in their logic. So to understand the Oedipus myth, one has to tell the whole cycle of tales connected with the city of thieves, which is Langue. So to understand the story of Oedipus, for example, if someone asks that what is the story of or what is the myth of Oedipus, so what is the myth of Oedipus? Normally that Oedipus um, will have marry his mother at the end, or what Freud has used that or what Oedipus complex is that boys will have a general or overall or much liking to their mother, right? So to understand that, to understand to make someone understand this myth, you have to tell that why boys, that why Oedipus will marry his mother. So to tell tell the story, you have to begin from that when Oedipus was a child, and there was a, you have to tell that there was a curse that he will marry his kill his father and marry his mother, and to prevent that Oedipus's father sent him to an sent him or abandon him, then a shepherd found him. So you have to use all that narrative or all the structure to make one understand the myth of Oedipus. So that is what structuralist is telling us, that to understand a particular text we have to take example from the overall, from the whole structure or the text is part of. So this is the typical structuralist process of moving from the particular to the general. If we are not wrong, yeah, it is indirect method. You will see that in indirect method, to understand someone we use an example and then we defines it to give a overall understanding that this section, for example, to make someone what is fruit, if we take an apple and example and tell them that this quality below, that look, it is eatable without cooking, or you this you can get this from a tree. So all this, so this particular characteristic of apple is very similar to many of the fruits. So when giving, or so when we are using indirect method, we are using a particular example, then we are giving a general understanding of a bigger structure which is fruit. So to make one understand fruit, we are using apple, and then we are defining the apple in a bigger picture. So this is what structuralist is saying, placing the individual work within the wider structural context. Ronald Barthes has used 561 lexes and 5 codes to analyze the story of Saracen. So to understand the story of Saracen, one has to go through all these little incidents or the whole details which constitute the larger structure. So Saracen is a story by Balzac, and Ronald Barthes has defined the story of Saracen in 561 lexis and 5 codes, and in this basis, based on these codes and lexis, he has given we has analyzed the story of Saracen. So the story of Saracen is the parole, and is the particular or individual structure, and these 561 lexis and 5 codes are the overall or the wider structure. So to understand the story of Saracen, one has to go through all these little incidents or the whole details which constitute the large structure. Similar to the Oedipus myth, to understand Oedipus myth, we have to go through all the little details of what Oedipus father is, who Oedipus himself is, how he has come, how he has abandoned from the Thebes, and how he has entered the Thebes. So that is how structuralism works. So what is the purpose of structuralist? The purpose of structuralist is to that is to make us believe that any kind of literary text cannot be defined separately, or everything is dependent on another thing. That's it for today's video. Please make sure to like, share and subscribe. Thank you.